Since there are many possibilities of how you might create your project, how you like to work, and the environment you're in, Illustrator is very flexible and customizable. In this last chapter, I'll show you how you can make it fit your specific needs.
If you've been following the lessons in this course in order, you probably have a good idea at this point which features of Illustrator you want to use the most and which features aren't so important for you. What's great is that Illustrator is very customizable, so you can place your favorite features where you can get to them most easily. So I'll show you how to do that, and I also want to show you how to customize Illustrator's keyboard shortcuts. The file I have open is called Shape, and you'll find it in the Chapter 10 folder of the project files, but we don't really need to use it right now. We'll come back to it in a bit. What I want to start with is customizing the panels. The panels that appear on the right side and the order that they appear are controlled by what are called Workspaces. And you'll find Workspaces up here in the upper right corner of the screen. Right now this is Essentials, and that's what I've been using through this entire course, is just the plain regular default set. But there's more than just that. Click that Essentials and you see you have a few others. For example, if you choose Layout, it shows you another set of panels and they're expanded. Painting, this is all stuff dealing with brushes and colors. And typography, so if you're going to do anything with text, you have your character and paragraph and also color as well. And if you want to get back to the Essentials, you can simply click that and choose Essentials. So you're back to where you started. So you can go and rearrange these panels any way you like and then save them as your own custom workspace. And you can have as many workspaces as you want. So maybe you want one workspace for one type of project, another workspace for another type of project, or maybe you're sharing a computer with someone else and each of you wants your own workspace, so you can do that.
Let's start by adding something to the panels.
One feature that people use often that doesn't appear on the panels by default is the Pathfinder panel. So let's go up here to the Window menu and go down here. You see there's Pathfinder, and I'll just click that. And now you see we have the Pathfinder panel, and you see inside the panel we have these two other tabs, Align and Transform.
Maybe we want Pathfinder and Align down here on the bottom, but we really don't need Transform.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click Transform, and I'm going to take this, and you see where my mouse pointer is right on this tab. I'm going to drag this out of that group. So now it's all by its lonesome, and I'm just going to close it. I'll click that X. So now we have Pathfinder and Align, just those two in here. Now, by the way, you can add other tabs into one of these groups, but you probably don't want to add too many because after all these tabs you won't be able to read them. Anyway, let's take this and I'll put my mouse pointer. It doesn't matter if you put it on the top title bar over here or down over here, and I'm going to drag this down on very bottom, and you see on bottom of these panels there's this little kind of horizontal highlighted bar. When you see that highlighted bar, just let go and now it's there. So now you can click and bring up Align, or you can, let's hide that, or you can click and bring up Pathfinder just as though it was born there.
What if we want to rearrange some of the panels that are on here already? For example, let's say we want to put the swatches and graphic styles panels together because we use them a lot.
Now, one thing you could do is you can take from right here, you don't even have to expand these groups. You can take this and just drag it right over here. And here, let me just expand that so you can see what's going on. Or, let's say graphic styles is already open. I can just, kind of like I did before, put my mouse pointer right on the tab and drag it out here on the page. Let's just go hide the appearance. So now I can take graphic styles and drag it on here. And you see when this kind of gets highlighted a little bit? When I let go, now they've joined. I want to put this new group maybe right over here in between these two. So I'll put my mouse pointer on here and I'll drag. Now here's where you got to be kind of careful, because if I let go right now, what's going to happen is I'm going to have a group with 4 tabs, because you can see that the brushes and symbols group, you see that's highlighted. It's not just this little horizontal bar that's highlighted, it's this kind of entire group there that's highlighted. So I don't want to let go right now. I'm going to push the mouse pointer up a little bit. So I have, again, you see it's just a thin horizontal bar that's highlighted. I don't have the entire group highlighted. Now I let go of the mouse button, and now I've put that group up there. So now I can get to swatches, or I can get to graphic styles, and they have their own little group. let's say that also while I'm working with these, I want to have another panel, maybe just sitting there on the screen. So I'll go up to the window menu, and let's say the info panel. Maybe I just want to have that info panel kind of somewhere here on the screen, just hanging out. If you take a look up here, it still says Essentials. What I've done is I've taken the Essentials workspace and I've modified it. Now, if I go over here and I choose Reset Essentials, and don't click that, I just want to show you the menus here. If I do that, all of these changes that I made are gone, and they're gone for good, and we're back to the Essentials that we had to start with. So what I want to do is I want to save this so that anytime I start up Illustrator, I can have this custom workspace. So I'll go up here, click this down arrow, and I'm going to choose over here, let's click New Workspace. And it asks you for a name. I'll just call this Bob's Workspace. You can name it after yourself, and I'll click OK. And now there's Bob's Workspace. So now if I click over here, and I go back to Essentials, so here is Essentials. Now this thing is still sitting there. I can close that, but here's my items. Here's this little group there. Here's that little group there. But now when I go back here and I bring up Bob's Workspace, it comes back and this floating panel comes back with it.
Now, let's say later on I decide that I really no longer need this workspace. Maybe it's in my way. I can remove it.
Click up here and go down here on the bottom of the flyout and choose Manage Workspaces. There's Bob's Workspace. You can select it. If you want to rename it, you can simply rename it, but I just want to delete it, so I'll make sure it's selected. I'll click the trash can, and yes, I want to do that. Click OK, and it's gone. And by the way, there's no undo, so if you want to remove a workspace, make sure that you're really doing it. Now, just because I remove the workspace doesn't mean that my panels are reset. You see, I still have these modified panels. If I want to go back to the default Essentials, I simply go up here and once again, Reset Essentials, and we're back to the way Illustrator is by default. Let me show you how to customize keyboard shortcuts. And this is the reason why I have this shape here. Let's say that we want to separate the stroke from the fill. Maybe we want to push it around a little bit. So the way you would do that normally is to expand. So if you click it, go up here to the Object menu, and you see there's Expand. But there's no keyboard shortcut. And let's say you find that you're doing the Expand command often, and you want to have a keyboard shortcut for it. Here's what you do. Go up to the Edit menu, and then down towards the bottom is Keyboard Shortcuts. Now, this shows you Illustrator's defaults. You can't modify the defaults. What you do is you create your own set, and then you modify that. So over here to the right of Illustrator defaults, click this little Save button there. I'll call this Bob's Shortcuts. Click OK. And right now this is showing you all the tools. Let's click this down arrow here and choose Menu Commands. I'll go over here to Object, and here is Expand. And you click that, you see there is no shortcut. So when you have this clicked, I'm going to press Command Option E. If you're on Windows, you can press Control Alt E. And if there's a conflict, it would show it right here, but there is none, so I don't have to worry about it. In fact, you can see Go to Conflict, that's grayed out. So I'll click OK. It says, do you want to overwrite the Set Bob's Shortcuts, which is basically means do you want to save what you did. So I'll click Yes. All right, so let's select this, or leave it selected, and I want to expand. So first let me just show you, if I go up to the Object menu, you see now Expand has that shortcut, Command Option E or Control Alt E in Windows. So rather than clicking that, I'll do it. I'll press Command Option E. It expands. Now I still have to ungroup, and ungroup already has a keyboard shortcut, or you could go up to the Object menu. You can see ungroup is by default Command Shift G or Control Shift G in Windows. I'll deselect. Now I can grab the stroke and modify it separately from the fill. Alright, so let's say somebody comes and sits down on your computer and maybe you've modified a lot of the shortcuts and they're really not sure what's going on. You can always set this back to the default shortcuts. Doesn't mean you're going to delete your set. You can just switch around, just the same way that you can switch the workspaces. Let's go back to the Edit menu, back to Keyboard Shortcuts, and you see there's Bob's Shortcuts, or whatever you called it. Click the down arrow, and I can say, okay, right now I want to go back to the defaults because somebody else is going to use the computer. When they're done, you can always click this and go back to your own shortcuts. And later on, if you decide you just don't need it anymore, you can always remove it. Click the delete button. Also, here's what's really cool. Wouldn't it be nice if you had a list of all these shortcuts? Down here in the lower left corner, you can export text, and this will export a text file of all of those shortcuts so you can pin them up on your wall and memorize them so you can use Illustrator really fast. Now that you know how to modify shortcuts and workspaces in Adobe Illustrator, it's the same way in many of the other Adobe Creative Cloud applications.